the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everybody to the Planning Commission. Here we have the Planning Commission. This is the meeting of the Morrison County Planning Commission. The commission is made up of citizens from the 5 commissioner districts of the county and 1 county commissioner. The purpose of this commission is to oversee the preparation of the Morrison County land use controls, hear and review applications, and offer recommendations for conditional use permits, interim use permits, subdivision plat approval, plan unit developments, rezones, and other matters to be considered by it under the Morrison County Land Use Control Ordinance. Our powers are established in state statutes chapter 394.21 to 394.37. Conditional uses and interim uses are recommended for approval upon a showing of an applicant that standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied. All questions must be answered in the affirmative in order for the Planning Commission to recommend approval of a conditional use permit and an interim use permit. Unless conditions can be attached that bring the proposed use into compliance and mitigate the negative finding of fact. Conditions and restrictions may be imposed by the Planning Commission as deemed necessary to protect the public interest. After your public hearing is complete, you may leave if you wish. Okay, tonight we have 3 items on our agenda, and the first one is John and Sandra Monroe. Application is rezone a parcel of land from agriculture to residential for the purpose of future development located in point of the southeast quarter, section 2, township 42, range 32, Ripley Township. At this time, I would like the applicants to come forward and state your name for the record.
John Monroe.
Go on the mic so the other.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
John Monroe.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now, before we move on any further, I just want to let you guys know how the things are going to work tonight, so you guys don't get antsy and like when we get to talk. We'll go through, so first we're going to have some staffing reports and things like that. We're going to have the applicant talk. We'll have the Planning Commission asking questions. Then we'll have some other people from out the county, different entities that'll have some time to speak. Once we get through that, then we'll open it up for public comment. Okay, and then when I open up for the public comment, you have to go to the stand and talk into the microphone and state your name for the record. And we have a big crowd, so for the first round, we're probably going to limit it to 2 minutes. Okay, and then if things ain't repeated and there's more to say, we'll give some chances maybe that we can open it up and speak a little bit more and have discussion on it. So just so you guys know the order of things and how we're going to do that. And then after public comment, then the board goes through our kind of our commentary, and then we're going to vote on if we're recommend or not recommend. So just so you guys kind of know the order of things. So with that, I'm going to ask Amy from Planning and Zoning staff to give her staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an application to rezone a parcel from agriculture to residential for the purpose of future residential development. Again, this is located in Section 2 of Ripley Township. The ordinance reference for this request is Section 508, and that does require a public hearing to change the official zoning map. Here's a plat map of Ripley Township, and the red dot is the location of the parcel. And then here's the rezone request received from the applicant. And then an aerial photograph of the parcel that we're talking about tonight, that's outlined in blue. And then here's some oblique imagery of the parcel. The applicant purchased this property in November of 2019. The parcel is a total of 41.75 acres and is zoned agriculture. The parcel is wooded. About 50% of it is with evergreen and the other 50% deciduous trees. The parcel is approximately a half mile east of Highway 371 and is served by 263rd Street, which is County State Aid Highway 49 on the south, and by 155th Avenue on the east, which is a township road. 263rd Street is bituminous and 155th Avenue is gravel. And then here is just a dialed out aerial photograph of the area with the parcel outlined in blue. The wetland inventory does not indicate wetlands on the property, and the soils on the parcel are rated as not prime farmland. And then here is that from the web soil survey. In January 2020, the applicant applied for a rezone of the property from agriculture to residential for the purpose of future residential development. The request was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission, but was denied by the County Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners found the request was in conflict with the Comprehensive Land Use Plan with respect to support of the mission of Camp Ripley and the ACUB program. The applicant wishes to plat the parcel for residential development and is again requesting a rezone from agriculture to residential. This is a drawing that's submitted by the property owner and the applicant, and this is really just a very rough drawing. It is not an official plat, and has not been surveyed, so it is subject to change. The soils on the parcel are rated as not limited and slightly limited for septic drain fields, and there is the web soil survey map for that. The property is within Priority 1 for Camp Ripley's ACUB program. Several parcels in the area are enrolled in an ACUB easement. Below is a map of the area with the parcel that we're talking about outlined in blue. All of the parcels with the red cross hatching is enrolled in an ACUB easement. And then here's just to give you an idea of the proximity of this parcel outlined in blue from Camp Ripley, which is outlined in yellow. And then here's some general information about Camp Ripley ACUB. I'm not going to go through this because this was in your packet, but if you want me to refer to any of these slides, I certainly will. So I'm just going to go through these slides, and like I said, we can circle back if there's anything you want to discuss. The minimum parcel size in the agriculture zoning district is 5 acres. The minimum parcel size in the residential zoning district is 30,000 square feet, which is about 0.68 acres. The development pattern around this parcel consists of a residentially zoned subdivision called the Woods at Eagles Landing and agriculture zoned parcels. Within the half-mile radius of this parcel, there are 27 existing residences, and the nearest feedlot is over 1 mile away. Here's an aerial photograph of that. Again, our parcel that we're looking at is outlined in blue. The red circle is the half-mile radius. The yellow dots are homes, and then there is a parcel with a green dot, and that's where the feedlot is, and I'm not sure that's showing up right there. And then also the zoning layer is turned on, so everything with blue is a residential zoning district. Everything without color is an ag zoning district. The purpose of the agriculture zoning district is to promote and protect areas which have high-quality agricultural lands and are essentially rural in nature. Within this district, agricultural activities shall be given precedence over other land uses. The purpose of the residential zoning district is to provide areas for moderate density, single-family residential development, generally near or adjacent to incorporated areas or other areas of the county with such levels of development. If this rezone is granted, the applicant will submit a plat application that will be considered by the Planning Commission and the County Board at another public hearing. The details of the plat development would be considered and discussed at that point. The applicable comprehensive plan goals and objectives is residential, goal B1, objectives 1 and 2, and 6. In agriculture, goal A1, objectives 6, goal A2, objective 1. And also section 3 of the comp plan, which discusses the Camp Ripley Military Reservation. "36 notices were sent prior to the public hearing. I did receive one comment from Jim Cole, who is a member of the of Ripley Township Board. And he stated that the township is against this request, and they were the first time as well. And he stated that the neighbors are also against it. I believe we do have at least one other member of the township here who may want to speak on behalf of the township as well, Mr. Chair. And then here are your zoning amendment discussion questions.
Okay, at this time, Mr. Monroe, would you have anything to add to Amy's report or anything you want to say towards this application?
Yes, I do. A few items I'd like to bring up. Obviously, I was here a year ago, or over a year and a half ago roughly. I'm working off memory. I think 3 of you were here, and I think 2 were new members. Doesn't matter, but the reason I'm bringing this back forward after a year or over a year, I've had over a year to think about this some more, and just spending more time in the area. I golf out at Eagles quite a bit. Just a super nice area out there, and with the current neighborhood, if you want to call it that, within, like Amy said, roughly a half a mile, quite a few houses in that area. Eagles obviously being the nicer of those. Just driving by, just general eye appearance type of thing, not putting anything else on the table there. But I guess my dream and my goal in all of this, I retired early at 58, and I was accused a year ago of doing this for the money. And I just wanted to lay that to rest. If I retired at 58, I think it's pretty common sense that I probably got enough nest egg built up. I can live a comfortable life in my current lifestyle and be fine with that. I just wanted to lay that to rest. Another item that came up was, you bought the property just to spin it around and sell it. And again, no, that was not the initial desire to purchase the property. It came up, I thought it was an attractive price. We are in a multi-level home right now, and we're getting to the age where we might want to be on a single level, and all of that came into play. We thought, here's a nice piece of land. We could build our so-called retirement home, one level type of thing. It wasn't long after that, and spending more time golfing shortly after I retired, and just really starting to like the area, and then the idea of dividing it out came up. Part of that was, my current neighborhood where I live right now is very similar to what I'm proposing. Their lots are a little smaller. We're about an acre and a quarter where I'm at, but there's 28 houses in my little area. And I like living in a neighborhood like that. We're out in the country, but yet we've got neighbors to help, depend on, we help them, watch their dog when they're on vacation, they turn around and watch ours, things like that. Help with the kids, whatever. I'd just like to replicate that and make a nice, orderly, good-looking development in the county. And with the county's own comprehensive plan calling for an increase in population of Morrison County in the next number of years, obviously you're gonna need more housing. I thought this would fit. This will help, help on some of that. Also in the last year, I've learned a lot more in terms of developing a piece of property. And behind that is a friend of mine, Jeff, who has done, I don't know how many, but the last 3 are very nice. And I think I gave, you guys got some pictures? That's his last one that yeah, there we go. This one is Birch, what's it called? Birch Drive or Birch Acres, or something with Birch. It's up just north of Brainerd a little bit. These are all, I'd say, 2 years old or newer, maybe 3 on the outside. But that's the type of development I'm trying to copy here. There was some talk at the year and a half ago that, I'm in it for the money and all of that, and we're gonna turn around and let a bunch of riffraff move in. Anybody with $10 is gonna be here. Not the case. gonna write some covenants, basically Jeff has been helping me, look into some of that type of thing. And the houses you see in front of you is what I plan on having out there. Put some restrictions out there so it's not so-called riffraff. We want some good, responsible people in the area attracted to this. And the only way to do that is write some covenants to protect not only the people that are buying, but the people that future coming in will look at that and see that as an advantage. They know they're protected a little bit. It'll also enhance, obviously you got the woods over there at Eagles, very nice development. This will turn out very nice. If anything, it'll enhance the value of the properties around it. So, there's some good to be said about the neighboring properties. The neighbors should be considering that as well. It's gonna automatically add to their value. So the type of development, I guess, that's the main focus with just showing you a few pictures there. Not having trailer house type setting, if you wanna call it that. And again, nothing against that. I lived in one years ago. It was a stepping stone, it worked great. So, but that's not what the final objective is here. A number of other things came up at the last meeting, traffic, and I think your county engineer, Bukowski, he deemed it a safe area in both 155th and 49. Visibility, sight lines, speeds, all of that. Obviously, accidents can and will continue to happen. Somebody gets distracted, they're gonna get in a wreck. Whether it happens here or if this development is put somewhere else, you increase traffic, you have the potential for that, but I don't think it should be penalized for this particular location. It's been deemed safe and ready to go, as far as that's concerned. The ACUB program, yeah, that's been brought to my attention more times than I can count. And I understand the purpose of the ACUB and what's behind it. The part that I have a little tougher time with is, they hang a carrot out, they offer some money, and in this case, it's $1,700 and some an acre, which substantial amount of money, not knocking that at all. But the part I have a little tougher time with is the value of the property is higher than that by quite a bit. So when it goes into ACUB, and it's quite restricted on what a person can do at that point. So you lose a lot of control, still responsible to pay taxes for it forever and ever. That's the part I have a little trouble with on ACUB. I understand their need to protect the area, and if Camp Ripley's gonna maintain or even grow in the future, who knows? But if that property means that much to Ripley, in my opinion, they should just buy it. Market value, not $1,700. That's my take on the ACUB. Like I say, I fully respect the military. Obviously, it's the greatest military in the world, and I fully endorse that. I've got relation that's involved and everything else. But personally, like I say, if they're that interested in these parcels of land, I think they should up the ante on them, and also take them off the tax roll, which you guys probably don't want to see that happen, but it shouldn't be the burden of the the property owner either. So, opposition to this is, a year ago when it was up, year and a half ago, and today I'm sure there's just as much opposition as there was a year ago. I understand that. We're all creatures of habit. I am, you guys are, the audience. We're just used to things clicking along the way we like them. When somebody upsets the apple cart, our ears pop up and we sit back a little bit. I get it. I'm the same way, everybody is. I guess what I'm asking is to just open up the blinders a little bit and look at this project down the road. how it can enhance not only the neighborhood, but the county, tax revenues, and bringing in, needed housing, that type of thing. I guess it's just, like I say, that basically is a nutshell of what I'm after. It's just a dream of mine to leave my stamp on this earth, something positive and something that looks good. And when I pass from this world, my grandkids can go by and say, look what Grandma and Grandpa did. Pretty darn nice, something to be proud of. That's what I'm after. So I think I can do a good job at this. I'm very confident I can do a good job at this. I'll get it done. I'll get it done right. And it'll look, with Jeff's help, it'll look like those pictures. So.
Okay, thanks, John. I'm sure we'll be interacting with you. We'll have some questions, so.
Sure.
At this time, I'd ask the board, anybody have any questions for staff or for Mr. Monroe at this time? Marv?
Mr. Chair, first question, Amy may have to look this up. We keep on talking about ACUP. The distance from this property to Camp Ripley, how far is that actual for facts?
Yep, Mr. Chair, I'll just show you, there was a slide that showed that, so let me just go back to that.
Back one. There. No,
Oops, let's see,
there.
1.5 miles.
Thank you. And the next question I've had, we talk about ACUP, I was reading through some of this. If you do sign, or anybody that have signed with the ACUP, are these solid restrictions, or if these are sold to an individual's name, do they stay with that property forever and they can't do any development to it? Or is it just more of a gentleman's agreement, let's call it?
Mr. Chair, we do have people from the Soil and Water Conservation District and people from Camp Ripley that will explain that, exactly what that program is. So if you have any ACUB related questions, I think we're gonna have them explain that, and then hopefully that'll answer any questions that you have about how that enrollment goes.
Thank you. No more questions at this time.
Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll listen to so many other ones first, huh? Okay. So at this time, I'm gonna ask Shannon if you want to come for soil and water. I don't know if the guys from Camp Ripley want to join you or if they want to do it separate. That's fine either way. But I think if you'd go up to the podium and start with what you have. And introduce yourself too, please.
Mr. Chair, my name is Shannon Wetstein. I'm the district manager with the Morrison Soil and Water Conservation District. My office administers the ACUB program, which is the Army Compatible Use Buffer program for the area. This program has a long-standing history since 2004. We've been working with landowners in Morrison, Cass, and Crow Wing to basically enroll lands in permanent conservation easements. And to answer Mr. Treadle's question about what that means, it means we are taking interest from the community. It's a voluntary program. They come to us if they're interested in enrolling their lands. And what we offer is a payment to them, a one-time payment. It's an exchange for giving up their development rights on that property. So typically on a parcel, we're looking for high-quality parcels to put our taxpayer money to the best possible use, and those that are close to camp, because ultimately the program is to ensure that camp can continue training and doing what they do best is to train soldiers, and Brigadier General Cruz can speak to that more. But our program will pay landowners in exchange for their development rights. And typically, we exclude their current house or farm. And then if they want, we'd exclude one other area for a future house. But that's basically what then would be. That easement is recorded and would go with the property if it's sold. So it's forever. That future excluded area, if there wasn't a house there, someone could buy it from that current property owner that got the payment, and they could put a house there because that was never in the easement area. But anything in the easement area is left to either be farmed, because cattle and crops make good neighbors. They don't complain to camp about noises and vibrations and all of those things. Or with some of our funds, it's restricted. It has to be in a natural state. So I can answer more questions specifically, I guess, but we're really proud of that program and being the ones that have been selected to help deliver that program. We have a list of over 700 landowners in this area that have signed up and shown their interest for the program. So we have a lot of community support. We have our county commissioners and the county commissioners of the surrounding counties that have shown support for this program, because all of them understand the importance of Camp Ripley being able to operate and what it does for our economy in this area. Right now we're over 30,000 acres that our office has signed up and have permanent conservation easements in this area. That's over 300 landowners. And again, that many more that as funding becomes available, that's when we work off of our list, which is a ranked parcel list. Highest quality parcels move to the top, no matter if you sign up today or you signed up 2 years ago. Parcels like Mr. Monroe's that are intact, bigger parcels that are within our priority 1 area like this one is, rank very high. So it would be at the top of our list for receiving the next conservation easement. I guess I also want to say something from a soil and water perspective, separate from the ACUB before you guys have any other questions for me, but it's kind of deceiving, the farmland classification on this property, that 458 soil type class. It says it's not prime farmland, but Morrison County has a lot of 458 that is in production and is very valuable land. The reason this one is receiving a not prime farmland classification is because it's not irrigated, basically. If this land was irrigated, it would be outperforming, a lot of acres that might have the same land classification. So I just wanted to mention that because it is deceiving. This land is zoned agricultural for a reason. The trees that are on there are a planted plantation, but it could very well be crops. I mean, just north of there, there's some really nice fields that are irrigated. And, this land as agricultural zone could be, those trees could be gone tomorrow and it could have a pivot on it. So I just wanted to also address that on this, because I wouldn't regard it that it's garbage soils and you can't grow anything on it. That's definitely not the case. So, Mr. Chair, if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them on ACUB or on anything else.
Anybody on the board have questions for Shannon at this time? Marv?
Mr. Chair, so if I read this correctly and heard this correctly, 50% of this property is into trees. And then also, what type of trees are these? Just pines, or is there coniferous trees, oaks, something that's been there for a while?
So, driving past this property, a lot of it is in a pine plantation that's probably pretty close to mature, if not mature. The other back half you can see is kind of a mixed hardwood, but the majority of Mr. Monroe's property is in that pine plantation.
So I want to point something else out. I've caught enough heat from individuals that were pretty upset in the past that had hardwood trees that were clear-cutted and a pivot being put on, and I don't think Soil and Water would like to see that done with some properties for trees that have been there for years. Pines are something that grow back relatively quick. Just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Yeah, and Mr. Sharon, just to speak to that, because you guys have heard me speak before, when landowners are proposing cutting down a bunch of trees, right? I hate to see trees lost, but these trees were planted for the intention of harvest at a certain date. They're spaced correctly. They're planted just for that. That's the purpose of it. So yeah, to see those trees clear cut and a pivot put there, it would make my stomach grumble a little bit as well. But the reality is, because it is in ag and it's being used as an ag use, it could be converted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. Anybody have anything quick before she? If not, thank you, Shannon. Maybe we'll have to call on you later, but
Okay.
thank you. So at this time, if we could ask the Camp Ripley representatives to come forward.
All right, I'm going to raise that. Good evening, Chairman, Board. With me tonight is Josh Pennington. He's my head of my conservation team at Camp Ripley. So he's my expert on ACUP, just like Shannon is for the county. And so if there's any specific questions, I might turn to Josh to help me with that. The first thing I want to address, though, is I want to...
Just interrupt for a second. Could you state your name for the record?
Oh, I'm
sir?
sorry. Yeah, of course. I'm Brigadier General Lowell Cruz. I'm the Camp Ripley Senior Commander. And like I said, with me today is Josh Pennington and my Command Sergeant Major Marcus Erickson. The very first thing I want to say is I want to acknowledge the support that Camp Ripley has. The fact that in your comprehensive plan, you have an element in there that talks about considering Camp Ripley when you look at development is very important to me. And so I thank you for that. I thank everybody here tonight for the passion you have for whatever position you're approaching this on. Because all of it surrounds supporting Camp Ripley, the millions of dollars of investment that we've put into the installation, and more importantly, the soldiers that we get to train there every day, right? Because they're training not only to support your nation in war, but to do a lot of the things they've done this last year in supporting Minnesota. So that's an important piece as well, and that's truly why the Army Compatible Use Buffer Program exists. And as explained, this parcel is in the Priority 1 area for us. It's within 3 miles of the Camp Ripley border. And it is one of our higher priority areas that we are trying to prevent encroachment on. And so the purpose of the ACUB is to prevent encroachment that will affect training at Camp Ripley. And what that really means is we're trying to avoid building residential areas that will eventually turn into noise complaints from our artillery firing or the dust we create, those kind of things. And it's important because we've got a lot of examples of places like Fort Benning and things like that where all of a sudden soldiers aren't able to train at night. And we train at night because that gives us a lot of security and keeps people alive. And so being able to fire artillery, have aircraft fly at night, and create a lot of noise is what we are as a noisy neighbor. And so ACUB helps us protect that. But it is a fact that ACUB is driven by willing landowners. Okay, there's nothing in the ACUB rules that requires you statutorily to affect a landowner's ability to do what he wants with his land. And so, while I appreciate the board's willingness to hear this hearing and understand Camp Ripley's role in it, we work with willing landowners, and those willing landowners come to us, and we give them a percentage of the assessed agricultural land value of their land. That's where the $1,700 he talks about comes from. And so we're pretty proud of that program. We've got lots and lots of people around Camp Ripley on all four sides that have protected Camp Ripley by enrolling their land. And it is a perpetual easement, lifetime easement. But there are ways that you could get out of that easement, but they're rather extreme as well. You know, they'd have to pay back the payment, and they'd have to enroll a like amount of acreage back into ACUB if they wanted the parcel to come out of ACUB. So at this point, that's really all I wanted to share. If there's any questions you have of me, I would gladly try to answer them.
Okay, anybody have questions?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Dave.
you just mentioned a lifetime, but it's really goes with the property, it's a forever easement, isn't it? Or
It is. It's a
so
perpetual.
it's not a lifetime of the person who took the easement?
Lifetime of the property, perpetual easement.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
All right, anything else?
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your support. I really, truly appreciate it, and so does Camp. Now that I'm extra gear, I'll try to reattach it for you.
Well, they are bad neighbors, aren't they?
Okay, at this time, we'll talk with maybe if somebody from the Morrison County Public Works is here, if they'd have anything to say. And state your name for the record, please.
Yes, my name is DJ Prom. I am here on behalf of the Morrison County Public Works Department. I'm the assistant engineer, assistant to Steve Bukowski. This plat area has been evaluated by our department. The intersection, specifically the intersection of 155th Avenue and 263rd Street, we've evaluated that intersection for a safe stopping distance for a traffic that would be increased on 155th coming out onto 263rd, which is County CASA 49. Our staff has evaluated using the techniques prescribed by the MnDOT Road Design Manual, and where we utilize a 3.5-foot height of eye and a 2-foot height of object. And we have determined that that the sight distance there is adequate to meet the statutory 55-mile-an-hour speed zone. In fact, the shorter of the two sides as far as sight distances would be for the westbound traffic, and that distance meets a 66-mile-an-hour speed zone, the stopping sight distance. So that has been the determination of our department. So we see that as being adequate sight distance for that intersection.
Anybody have any questions for DJ?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then at this time, I'll also call, I think, Darv here from the township, Ripley Township, if you'd want to come up.
Darv Kier, Ripley Township Supervisor. We're against it because we're an entity of the government, and with ACUB, the state has spent a lot of money out there on ACUB, and to keep Camp Ripley open, and so we're against it.
Question.
Darv, just hold on. Anybody have questions?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Dave.
I'd just like you to clarify one point. At the last meeting that you presented for the township, their opinion, at that time, it was stated today that you were against it then, but at that time you were neutral, neither for nor against.
Well, at that time, I just got out of the hospital with my hip.
Okay.
Getting my hip replaced, so I wasn't feeling too good at that time.
Okay, I was just wanted to clarify that
Yep,
that was
okay.
the position at that time.
Yep.
It might have changed when you went to the commissioners later, but,
Yep.
okay,
M-
thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman? Yeah. I've got a question for Doug.
Go ahead, Mr. Brucher.
One of the questions in here is that are utilities available to serve the proposed development? What are they proposing for road? Is this going to add a load to the township that keeping, and especially, usually these kind of developments require a higher degree of whatever, they expect it to be done now. Is this something that's going to put a load on the township?
I don't know if it'd really put a load on our township, it'd just be more work to do it and everything, and if the development was approved, the township would have to take over the road. That's just a rule at the county. You know, like in the golf course, we gotta take care of that road. Cause otherwise it'd just be a big mess if everybody had to take care of the road.
How much difficulty is it cleaning that golf course road? How much work is that?
It's quite a bit. That's the only tar road we got in the township. You know, and they expect it when you get a little bit of snow. We don't go on the gravel roads when it got just a scuff of snow. But the tar roads are, and we just got done crack filling the golf course road again and stuff. So there's quite a bit of maintenance to them, just to crack fill and everything and stuff like that, so.
I wonder if the rest of the township would suffer because of this, though?
Well, I don't know if it would really suffer, but, it takes more, with the equipment that we're using on the gravel roads, it's hard to clean cul-de-sacs and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Any more?
Yes, question for you. I would assume the golf course and the developments around there that the township is responsible generates a fair amount of dollars for the township. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And if this would go through, the township would receive a considerable more dollars also, correct?
I'm sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thanks, Darv. Okay, anybody else on the planning commission have a question for anybody at this time before we open up the public comment?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Mr. Stish.
there's a couple of comments here on maintenance of the township roads, and I know that's one of our questions, adding a burden to the township or not. But if you recall, we've had a similar discussion to this on an expansion of a dairy farm, and the township weighed in that it would be a burden for them. But later on, and we used that as a reason to add a condition, which later the county commissioners overturned that decision, saying that no, really, townships have to step up to whatever the need is in their township, and pointed out also that they are taxpayers. These folks in this area will be taxpayers, so they are deserving of whatever rights everybody in the township has. So just to point that out.
Okay, everybody else good at this time? Okay, so at this time, we'll open up the public comment. So if we can do it in an orderly fashion, if anybody has a comment from the public, if you'd go to the podium, state your name, and we'll try a round of about 2 minutes for each, so everybody gets to speak. I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to speak here, so if somebody wanted to start out, go ahead and get up to the podium, state your name, and say what you have.
Okay, thank you.
Just hold on 1 second, let me just clarify. This first thing, I think they have a slideshow, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that'll take more than 2 minutes, so we'll just, no. I'm saying the slideshow is gonna take more than 2 minutes, that's fine. After that, when we just have public comment, we're gonna limit it to 2 minutes. I just wanted to clarify that for you guys.
Okay, my name is Bernice Dumont Brodier, and I live on Ridgeway Drive at the Woods at Eagles Landing. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank all the constituents and neighbors that came today to be present for this opposition. And I just want to cover 4 areas briefly. Number 1, Camp Ripley. We need to protect Camp Ripley. It's very important. It's important to us. It's important to Camp Ripley. We have a list of over 40 neighbors and concerned constituents that are listed on the petition that Sarah is going to present. And those who are seated here are committed to protecting Camp Ripley as a unique national military training base, contributing hundreds of thousands of dollars to this county. Number 2, we talked about ACUB, thanks to Shannon, but we haven't really talked about the Sentinel Landscape Program. So ACUB and the Sentinel Landscape are
Can
both...
I just interrupt for 1 second, please?
Yes.
I know you guys are real passionate about this and all that, but please don't list your signs up. It takes away our focus of what you're actually trying to tell us. So please, I know you guys are passionate about it, but it distracts us. Thank you.
Okay, so ACUB and the Sentinel Landscape Program are federally and state legislated. ACUB was founded in 2004. Eagles Landing, the woods at Eagles Landing is there because it was rezoned prior to ACUB. So it is not to be compared whatsoever with what is going on today with ACUB. Camp Ripley is one of 7 military locations in the United States that has been designated with the Sentinel Landscapes. And we should be very proud of that and continue to protect Camp Ripley with a deep conviction and moral action from our zoning managers and our commissioners to honor that. I also want to make note of no to encroachment. This request for rezoning a parcel from agricultural to residential is encroachment, as described by both ACUB, the Sentinel Landscape Program. And we'll talk more about the Sentinel Landscape Program. Also, keeping ag is very important. Morrison County and the surrounding counties are considered agricultural counties. This rezoning 42 acres to residential for an 18-home development limits the surrounding farming community from expansion, such as adding a hog barn, feedlots, etc. So there are farms to the north and farms to the east that would be greatly affected. So where's our commitment to agriculture? The Sentinel Landscape mantra also says, keep farms farms and forests forests. The rezoning also compromises Morrison County's commitment to agriculture as stated in your Morrison County Policy and Comprehensive Plan. Let's keep agriculture, agriculture. And that's what I have to say. I thank you very much. Do I get questions?
Not at this time.
No, okay.
Hi, I'm Sarah Schultz. You can go to the next slide, Shannon, or Amy, sorry, Shannon. Good evening. We're here yet again to discuss Mr. Monroe's application to rezone, which was denied by our Board of Commissioners in April of 2020. You can go to the next one as well. The first part, as she touched on, I just wanted to highlight the differences between the golf course and the new proposed development. The golf course was zoned in 1999. ACUB was 2004. The Sentinel Landscape was in 2015. The other part to note is the golf course has 12 homes, part of a 220-acre parcel, versus this would be 18 homes on 42 acres, which equates to a lot more density. It'd be 1/6 of the land with more homes. And just to also bring up, like, there are other landowners that you'll set precedent for that have property not that far away that could then come forth and ask for more developments in this area. And this property is also priority 1 of ACUB, and from what I understand, as Shannon stated, It's high priority just because of the impact that Camp Ripley has. They said they're noisy neighbors, and we do hear you. It's totally fine. So we can go to the next slide. Encroachment. So what is encroachment? Well, it's a term used by the U.S. Department of Defense to refer to incompatible uses of land, air, water, and other resources, is the cumulative impact of urban and rural development that can hamper the military's ability to carry out its testing and training mission. Certain types of land use near military installations can interfere with military operations by obstructing air routes and communication by cell towers, power lines, and other similar structures, competing for or interfering with data and communication frequencies, depleting ground or surface water supplies, water treatment capacity and other resources, using extra air emissions in areas that may have emission thresholds, and requesting changes in testing because of residents' noise concerns. New development can also drive threatened and endangered species onto a military installation, limiting its operations. So with me, I have the United States Government Accountability Office. It's a report to the congressional committees. This was in November of 2016. Defense infrastructure, DoD efforts to prevent and mitigate encroachment at its installations. And it reads, the Department of Defense reports that it's facing growing challenges in carrying out realistic training at installations and training ranges due to outside influences that inhibit military training and testing, which DoD refers to as encroachment. It goes on to further state, to assess how DoD considers incompatible land use, including urban growth, when making unit stationing decisions and managing its installations. And with this article, they went ahead and they studied 9 installations, and I will say that Camp Ripley was not one of them. But at 5 of the 9 installations we visited, development around the installation has resulted in operational restrictions or safety issues. For example, residential development within the noise contours of an installation can result in restrictions on the hours during which live fire training can be conducted, and ambient light from development near the installation can impair the effectiveness of night vision technology used during night training. And so here, we're now on to encroachment challenges, which I found from this one, which is the Florida programs to mitigate encroachment to military installations. And in Florida, they've encouraged local governments to cooperate with military installations to promote compatible land use, help prevent incompatible encroachment, and to facilitate the continued presence of major military installments in this state. And I'm not going to read all of these because you can see them here, but there's more than noise. Noise isn't the only encroachment. Frequencies, radio frequencies, you can go to the next one. And there's a few more on this one. And you can go to the next one. So the impact to the military mission reduces usage days, range access, segments the training, limits new technology. You can go to the next one. And as you can read a couple more there, but increases costs or risks. So in summary, encroachment may lead to a diminished capability and capacity for U.S. forces to train. You can go to the next one as well. And Todd Holman's here, and I actually have a video with you in it. You can go to the next one and we'll play the video. It's about the Sentinel landscape, which I knew nothing about, and I figured it's pretty new, so you might not know as much about it as well. So it's a little 2-minute. Todd, you're very quiet in this.
Yeah. Just speak over. Yeah.
It's an awesome thing, but it talks about how you should come up here and just tell it. I shouldn't.
Let's see. This is one part we didn't test.
We got it to play, but we didn't figure out the volume part.
Just trying to think how this is coming.
Did you
through.
mute something on your end because you muted somebody else?
Well, no, I'm also running on Teams, so I've got like
too many.
4 different things going on here.
I might be able to.
I just have to think for a second. Let's see here.
Isn't
We should just
technology
have
wonderful?
Todd talk about.
Yeah. Let me think.
I can pull it up on my computer.
Well, I can pull it up on mine, I think, and just run it through.
She just pulls it up and puts it by the microphone, it should be able to play.
Yeah. But then the video has to, they won't see the video.
Sorry, technical difficulties, I do apologize. Is there a Wi-Fi password? Or do I
Yeah.
use?
Do you want to give that to her? It's kind of complicated. Whoops. I don't know who this is.
I apologize. I had it all. I'll pull it up on my phone.
You can also just try the local public.
Well, I'll move on to the other part while I pull it up, and I'll do it at the very end, because I had one last part. So Commissioner Blaine, at the April 7th, 2020 meeting, spoke about how he has training planes fly over his farm, and he accepts responsibility for where he chooses to locate and live, and would expect residents in this area to have that same responsibility. As you can see, encroachment's more than noise. And the truth is, it's also your guys' job to think about the encroachment upon Camp Ripley when making decisions, which according to the REPI brought in $160 million to local economy in 2019. And I get that maybe it sometimes feels like camps may be telling us what to do, but we should really probably be asking what's in the best interest of camp. So to bring up, just because noise complaints is probably what they hear the most about, as well as Amy. In 2009, the city of Valparaiso, Florida sued the U.S. Air Force following heated complaints by residents over the noise created by F-35s taking off and landing at nearby Eglin Air Force Base. After contentious sparring over the issue, the Air Force eventually limited the number of F-35 operations over the city to 1 a day on average, which was down from the proposed 33 operations a day. It is exactly this kind of negative publicity and reduction in mission effectiveness military officials hope to avoid by heading off encroachment issues. Commissioner Jelinski and Wilson sided with ACUB and protected Camp Ripley from encroachment at that meeting. Commissioner Wilson brought up also that Mr. Monroe purchased this property in 2019, well after our ACUB going on support for that. Whether he knew about ACUB or not, or researched encroachment or not, really doesn't matter. The Planning Commission can and has a moral responsibility to not set a precedent in this rezone. You're not depriving him the use of his zoned agriculture land, as that's what he's bought. You are choosing to protect Camp Ripley, the vested interest of the area, and not set a precedent, which could contribute to future encroachment. And I just wanted to end with the video now, but Shannon at that last meeting on April 7th was talking about giving the county commitment with ACUB, and I will say, quote, "There are substantial reasons to limit development in this area." Thank you. And we can end with the video if you can get it, or I'll pull it up.
I'm trying here. I can get.
I'll pull it up on my phone instead.
I just am having trouble with the audio.
It's really interesting, I promise.
And I can play the video if you can do the audio, but the way I'm wired up right now,
I have it up, so if you want to
Okay.
kind of start
yeah,
playing it, and I'll get it somewhere close to that same time. It might be a little off.
I'm at 18 seconds.
I am at 1, so hold on. Now go ahead. It'll be pretty close.
My name is Todd Holman. I'm the Mississippi Headwaters Program Director for the Nature Conservancy here in this Minnesota North and South Dakota chapter. I'm also, in relation to this project, I am the Camp Ripley Sentinel Landscape Coordinator. And so I'm a contract coordinator for the Sentinel Landscape Program with Camp Ripley as the installation hub. And I've been working with the Camp Ripley program. The Army Compatible Use Buffer Program was the beginning in 2004, and in 2016 we became federally designated as Camp Ripley Sentinel Landscape, which made us part of a federal or a national Sentinel Landscape program. And really, the gist of what that program means, what's it mean to be in a partnership, a federal partnership. It's a partnership between 3 federal entities, so the Department of Defense, the Department of Interior, and the U.S. Department of Ag. Those 3 federal agencies have all combined to support the National Sentinel Landscape Program, which really focuses on maintaining and sustaining the military mission and the training capabilities of installations on a national scale. So Camp Ripley happens to be one of 7 Sentinel landscapes federally designated. And then we work with state agency partners like the Board of Water and Soil Resources, the Department of Natural Resources, Department of Military Affairs, all of the agencies that you would think about that are involved with natural resources and cultural resources. In the process of becoming a state partnership with federal partnership in the Sentinel landscape context, we had to develop a strategic plan. How are we all going to work together and develop goals and activities that we all can share and mutually benefit from, the strength of each other's to keep working lands working. Our mantra has always been to keep farms farms and to keep forests forests. And so we've worked.
Anybody else have some public comment? Please step up to the podium, state your name.
Mr. Chair, my name is Kurt Plant. I live and farm in the area. My feedlot's a little over a mile away. We have a manure management plan with the county, and my dad has 2 fields to the north of this property. I have a field to the west of this property. 2 of the 3 are irrigated, highly productive, and we put manure on these fields through our manure management plan with the county. And I just don't see any way that if a development goes in right next to these fields, that there's gonna be people that complain. And we won't have any buffer between the field and the new homes. And it looked like there was gonna be some pretty nice homes in there, and I'm just afraid this odor is not gonna work in a residential area like this. Thank you.
Mr. Plant, I have one question I'd like to ask you.
Yes.
Have you received complaints already at any time about odor or anything from the neighborhood already?
Yes, we have.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Please come up to the podium.
My name's Jeff Schultz. I live in the woods at Eagles Landing, and I just want to make sure that we saw a slide that showed that there was a residential development in the woods, but that was actually established well before ACUP came into existence. Now, if it would have happened after, it probably would not necessarily have been developed as it is, because of ACUB and the Sentinel landscape. But I just want everybody to remember that we have this camp, this great resource that we need to protect. Thank you.
Next.
My name is Bill Weidenbach. I live in Eagles Landing, across the street. We've talked a lot about ACUB. I'm all for that. supporting the military. I moved out here 10 years ago. It's a beautiful area. And I've lived in two or three other places where there were developments like this proposed, and I've never seen one yet that actually became what they told us it was going to be. You know, there's always problems. I think it will stress the county as far as road maintenance in there because, you know, they're stressed doing our road at Eagles Landing. They don't have the equipment necessary to really clean it out. So, you know, 0.68 acres, that's very small to put houses like that on. You know, my lot is 2 acres, almost, yeah, 2 acres. Some of us are a little less than that, but a lot bigger space for the homes than you're going to have over there. So I'm thinking about looking at the glow of a Walmart parking lot across the street from all the homes, the lights, the increased traffic. And despite what the county states on that road out there and the turn, I can't remember the name of the dirt road running alongside the Monroe property. But there will be an accident there, and there will be people probably hurt badly because nobody drives 55 on that road. They come over that hill, they're doing 70. So I just think we should keep this ag land ag. You know, the ACUB thing is important. There's so many other places in Morrison County where you could do this that would make more sense. I can't understand why this has to be a place that they would consider it. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else? So I'm going to ask 3 times before we close public hearing. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? Anybody else from the public like to add a comment or address the board? Third and final time, anybody else have any public comment? If not, the public hearing, the public portion of this hearing is now closed.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple questions. Is that possible to ask him now, or?
Yes, we'll kind of open it up to our board for questions, comments. We don't really have criteria questions, so we got to discuss points of views and things that you found. So go ahead, Marv.
One of them was a complaint, you know, about the manure, and can we set an area to establish a buffer area? Or this, can planning and zoning do that?
Mr. Chair, tonight we're talking about a rezone. And so the rezone is really yes or no. We don't have the ability to put any conditions on a rezone, so it's either granted or denied. When it comes to the platting process, that's where you get into the weeds with the layout of the subdivision and what open space is allowed and set aside and all of that. So buffering right now at the rezone step really wouldn't be where you'd look at that. You'd look at that if we would get to the platting step.
In the next, I should have asked this at the same time, if this does get approved, who sets the size of the lots and how many lots can be put on this property?
So, Mr. Chair, again, and I'll go back to that slide, the zoning district drives the minimum lot size. And so if you look at, and I've got it in here in the staff report, where the minimum parcel size in ag zoning is 5 acres, and the minimum parcel size in residential, which is what the request is 30,000 square feet. So the minimum parcel size that you could possibly see with a plat coming forward would be 30,000 square feet if a residential zoning district is granted.
So who sets these amounts, how large the size of these
The
parcels?
ordinance sets that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Stish.
Just to clarify that a little bit, though, Amy, if this were to pass and we rezone and we would get to the plating, then size of lots could be discussed in that plat design, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Brent, what's your thoughts?
Taking it all in.
You are, Mr. Brucher?
Well, I've read through the letter that Amy gave us with the zoning amendment discussions, and, has there been a change in the development policy of the county? And I would say not, and that falls into to concentrate residential where residential is and keep agricultural agriculture. That's been the overlying plan of the development policy of the county. I move on to, one of the other things that Mr. Monroe talked about was adding value. Now, if we I took 18 houses at $500,000 apiece, $9 million there, what does that subtract from the agricultural value of the township? There are agricultural facilities within the township solely stand close to that value. Now, what it is that I don't think that this adds value to the township. In fact, I think being agricultural and with, like plants, being able to spread that manure, and something else too about this being agricultural right now and having livestock facilities, price of fertilizer has gone right through the roof. It makes this, crops have to be fertilized by something. And right now, manure is worth a lot of money. And if you can't use it because, and I know that some of the complaints are driven by not so much that they could smell it, they could see it. That's all it took. And you get 18 houses in there with people that, I saw pictures of the houses, I doubt that very few of them would have any understanding of agriculture. All we have to do is go to the north, to Crow Wing County, and we see an anti-livestock county because of the concentration of residential there. You don't have to go very far to see that. So I just had a hard time kind of falling in with any of these. It's not compatible with the neighborhood. All we need is to increase the residential population of the neighborhood, and the agricultural atmosphere of that township goes away. And so it isn't just, it's that. And then also too is what precedent does this set? You get one residential, we allow one conversion to residential. What's to stop the next one? I kind of compared it to, say there was a really nice hog barn next to Little Falls. Well, what happens to the next guy that wants to put one there? So those are my thoughts. I just don't see it fitting at all into the overall township plan here. Let's put residential where it belongs and leave agriculture where it is. So, I think this is logical. It's not just plain emotional, Mr. Monroe. You can talk about people don't like change, but we've seen change before that hasn't been good. And it isn't just emotional, it's from previous experience that I think we can see this. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, I got a whole bunch of stuff I'll go through, and maybe it'll spark your guys' interest either for or against, but I got quite a bit I'd like to say. Well, maybe it ain't as much as I think. I got a lot of notes here. One thing I'd like to point out is when we look at our comprehensive plan, it's stated in there for ag. Within the ag zoning district, ag activities shall be given precedence over other land uses. But then if you look on the side where it says residential, the purpose for residential zoning district is to provide areas of moderate density and single-family dwellings if it's poor egg quality land or something like that, okay? So it just depends how you interpret it and which way you want to go. Part of this, what really palls me on some of this is, I was born and raised in the Camp Ripley buffer zone area. I still live there. I moved a mile away. I'm still in it. I've grown up my whole life listening to bombs, airplanes, helicopters, you name it. People come by and they're like, wow, what's that? I don't even hear the planes no more, okay? But even if I did, who cares? What appalls me is how people can complain and why we even have to have the A-cup thing. It just appalls me, okay? But also what appalls me is when, I think I said this last year, when you go down County Road 49 and you look at the 11 or 12 homes that are on the north side and you add all that land together, then people that live there, it's about the exact same acreage as Mr. Monroe is proposing for his development, okay? So they say they moved out to the country and they don't want all this growth, or you got people that are in the Eagles Landing in the golf course and it's good for them to move out there and be in there, but it isn't good for anybody else to go do that. So that kind of just don't sit very good with me. And then also when you compare the 220 some acres of land versus the 42, you can't compare that because we'd have to actually look at the lot size and see, because out of the 222 acres that Eagles Landing is, a lot of that's golf course. You don't have the houses on 222 acres. So that's just something to think about. Another thing that kind of don't sit very well with me is people come up and they're speaking and they're talking about A-cup and they're talking about agriculture and saving this for agriculture, but Mr. Plant already said he had people complain about odor, right? So I know if we do another development, we're going to have more of that. That's the nature of the beast. People, they ain't going to understand until they starve to death.
Or we starve to death.
Yeah, pretty much. And then if this would pass, you know, there's nothing that's going to say that it gets limited to 4 homes. I'm sure Camp Ripley and Soil and Water, they want to keep this so that we don't have homes, you know, going up. And they basically want 0, you know, because it's in their deal, right? But I guarantee you they'd feel a lot better about 4 homes versus 18, you know, so it's just something to think about. This is just things that I thought bring up some discussion. So, you know, I don't know, has there been any rapid population growth? Does the rezone conform with the comprehensive plan? Is the proposed amendment compatible with surrounding land uses? You know, some of them things. Just trying to get some banter back and forth, I guess, and what people are thinking, or what, you know, you guys come up with anything.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Stish.
I guess I've gone through all of the questions, you know, just discussion guideline. We don't have to go through them that way, but I think it would be helpful if we did take them one question at a time so that we're all on the same point and we can discuss the same point rather than each of us giving our varied feedback on all of the points separately. So I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I guess I'd like to look at them one question at a time and guide our discussion.
Okay, the first one is, has there been a change in the development policy of the county? I don't believe so. Amy, can you answer that?
Mr. Chair, the comprehensive plan was updated in 2016. And so the comp plan that you see excerpts from was updated in 2016. When that happened, there were some updates as far as recognizing different ag practices and just updating the demographics and population and all of that of the areas. But by and large, the comp plan that was in effect when we went through that update, the cornerstone policy statements within that did not change. So over the years, no, there has not been a sweeping change in the development policy of the county.
Okay, thank you. So move on to 2.
Mr. Chair.
You have a comment, Dave?
Yeah, on number 1, I just want to remind the board that we've all been through discussions with townships in our representative areas on densities in ag areas. Should it be 80 acres for a parcel in prime? Should it be in prime ag land? Should it be, what you were referring to earlier, Clint, the number of dwellings you see scattered around the countryside? And in areas that are not designated as prime ag land, that don't have center pivots on them, aren't prime soil, don't have a high concentration of feedlots, perhaps it should be 3 for 40, 4 for 40, something like that, something different. So that's an ongoing discussion. So has there been a change? No, but there certainly is discussion taking place on changes. And this is pretty representative of that discussion, this proposed zoning amendment today.
Okay. And just to piggyback on with that, Dave, Ripley Township is one of the townships that has stated they wanted to go 1 per 80, so that's just one thing. So we'll move on to question 2, unless anybody else has anything to comment on that. Has there been a rapid population growth or business change in the area? I don't know, I suppose, Amy, you're gonna have to answer that one too, I guess.
Mr. Chair, we just are wrapping up with the 2020 census, and I have not looked very closely at the demographer's information. I think, we probably have had some population growth in there, but nothing that's triggering a redistricting of commissioner districts, at least in that area. So when we look at change, that's maybe one lens to look at that through. As far as, rapid growth or a lot of growth, I don't think we're seeing it in that area so much as we are right in the city limits of Little Falls. And then also on the southern end of the county, more in the Royalton area.
Okay, thank you. One question for Mr. Monroe on that. If you were to do this, where do you think the people that would purchase these lots to build houses, where do you think they would come from? I know it's just your opinion, but I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, that's a moving target. That's a bit of a moving target, but again, I mentioned before, I kind of piggybacked and get a lot of information from a good friend of mine who's done developments. And he's seen both some local people just moving within the area. About 2/3 are new people coming to the area. He's done he saw the pictures of the last one. Country Lane is another one, Jacksonville Acres, and they're all very nice, just like Aaron's Hill where I live right now. And that's what I'm looking to replicate. Now, where they come from, I guess it really doesn't matter to me where they come from.
Okay, thank you. Was there a mistake made in the original zoning ordinance which needs to be corrected? In my opinion, I don't think so. You look around all the ag zoning around there, the trees were planted. I'm sure it was probably some erodible soil on that corner, so they planted trees just because it's dry land sand. Probably wasn't prime farmland unless it is irrigated, but it's still farmland. So I don't know if they got it wrong. I don't believe so. I don't know what your guys' opinions are on that.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr.
Well,
Sis.
there seems to be a conflict. Amy has pointed this out to us before, that there is a conflict in our ordinance itself between densities. The density in prime ag land area is the same as the density in more forested and more residential type ag areas, like especially Sandia Valley in that area, and possibly here, depending how you look at it. What should the densities be? That's the ongoing discussion, and there seems to be, Same rule for prime ag land, high feedlot density areas as it is for areas where there are very few feedlots, very little ag use.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mr. Stish. Anybody else? Nothing? Okay. Does the rezone conform with the comprehensive plan? Does this rezone conform with the comprehensive plan? My comment would be, like I stated earlier, if you read through what the comprehensive plan is for ag, yeah, it meets that, but then you could probably say it also meets for the residential too, if you really look at it. So it's kind of either way. I don't know what your guys' thoughts, that's my opinion on it. Mr. Treadle?
The way I view this, it obviously isn't prime ag land unless it would be cleared off and put a pivot on it. I think we all agreed on that. Here, you already have a development around there. And it's relatively a small development. And here, these homes, I think, would be comparable to the homes that were already put up by the woods there. So it would be just addition to that. And one other previous board meeting, we were talking about these small developments. Do we want to kind of plan them ourselves, or do we agree with them? How do we go about doing this here? And I think this would just piggyback on what's already there. That's my view on it.
Okay, anybody else?
We deal with these lake variances, Dave, and you've made the statement that we've got to do something to clean things up sometimes, is that if there's a non-complying lot, we can't let it continue the non-compliance. And I think that, these houses that were put there 40 years ago, and those golf course houses, again, we've got how many houses on 220 acres? I just don't think that we want to keep doing residential and agricultural land. That you clear that land up, put a pivot on it, it's worth $10,000 an acre. And, that's pretty much today's market. So agriculture is not low value either. And it would be prime irrigated land.
Okay. So this next question is somewhat...
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Stish.
Be patient. I'd like to talk about that question too. Amy, would you mind putting up the goals that you cited in your staff report? We do go over those rather quickly, and we assume that people have looked at them, but I think a lot of times we don't. They don't. We know the goal of residential, promote the wise utilization of land for organized residential development. And objectives in areas where ag is most prevalent, limit housing densities, most likely prevent conflict, allow ample opportunity for residential housing living in areas less suited to ag production and where adequate public infrastructure exists. Work with the county cities and their surrounding townships to plan for orderly growth and to reflect such plans in the county's ordinances. Orderly growth right now is kind of hard to come by in ag. With the density the way it is, homes can be scattered, 2 per 40, willy-nilly everywhere, basically. This is, I think, a chance to, do have some planning and, and order in the growth of residences in the county. So ag is to, the goal is to ensure, they protect ag first. Ag uses are number one. Definitely, we've always gone with that. But further on down, under the ag goals, there's objectives. Could you go to the next slide, Amy? Identify areas that are most suitable for long-term, best work from encroachment by conflicting uses, achieve appropriate balance between rural settings, ag uses in these same areas. The next one, I believe, identify areas in county that would be appropriate for both ag and limited residential and commercial uses. Such areas shall also, whenever possible, serve as a buffer between ag and whatever. So I think this request is consistent with the ordinance in that it is an orderly approach to adding residential in an area that is not, in land that is not ag, and, you know, concentrating those residences in that area so that they're not scattered through prime ag land. More opportunities for people to build.
Mr. Chair, can I comment on this?
Sure, go ahead, Marv.
Something that I have firsthand experience on this property around there. When I was in high school and after high school, I used to work for the farmers with that property around there. I've been on that land and put hundreds and hundreds of hours out there. And I'm going to ask the public, what would you rather have it develop and leave the trees there? Or would you rather have it agricultural? And I know they've done things to prevent the sandstorms, but I lived through them. And the wind was whipping, it was dry, and you couldn't see hardly anything in front of you. I know that they plant it down with crops, cover crops, but not always is it done into cover crop. I've had this here happen in the past, and to me, I'd rather have the trees, but I just wanted to point that out.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Butcher.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on a couple of things. First is that, Dave, you said that organized development rather than willy-nilly. This gets organized. That doesn't stop any of the willy-nilly housing anyplace else. This is not a trade there. It's just additional houses. It doesn't do anything to stop anything else from happening. And, you talked about the erosion. I live up there, and since people have gone into cover crops, we very seldom see any erosion of that kind anymore.
Mr. Butcher.
That's enough, yeah, sir.
Microphone.
Okay, yep, I'm sorry. So, no, I just made my point about that this development does not keep anything else from being developed. It's not a trade. This is just additional houses, and the other housing that might be put up there can still be put on. And again, you talked about the erosion. That's been kind of put away now with all of the cover crops. You must be able to see that, Shannon. I think farmers are doing a pretty good job of that now. Yeah. So I have to stick up for agriculture here, and because it makes sense for the county, it's within the parameters here. It's not just a personal opinion. So thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to, is the proposed amendment compatible with surrounding land uses? Mr. Stitch, you gotta have something on that one.
Oh, absolutely. I'm waiting for my partners to chime in first. But since you called me, it's compatible with surrounding land use. As stated in the in the staff report, there are 27 residences within a half-mile radius, a feedlot over a mile away, one feedlot over a mile away. Also, I'd like to point out that when people go in for a building permit, they're reminded that they are in an ag area and that ag is given precedence in that area, and that there will be odors, there will be ag traffic in the area, and you just build at your, that's where it is, you're in ag. I assume that even though this would be zone residential, that they would be informed of the surrounding ag areas. Are they also informed of the ACUB thing when they get permits in that area?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, anything that falls in the ACUB, they do need, there's an acknowledgement portion in the permit that they have to acknowledge that they are within the ACUB area and are subject to the sight, sound, smells, odors of Camp Ripley.
And another statement stating that they're in an ag area and the sites.
If it's rezoned to residential, they're not going to get that ag disclosure. It's only if they're building within ag zoning district.
Interesting. They should. Okay, we won't go into policy. Very compatible with the surrounding uses. And as Marv pointed out, right now it's 100% treed. perhaps those trees were planted there years ago with the idea that, wow, this will make a nice residential area. I know of a development by Royalton, Friends Court, that has 11, 12, 13, I can't remember how many residents in it, all 5-acre lots platted out. And also, I'd like to point out too that before the township would have to take over a road, they have a lot of input into how that road is built. That it would have to be to their standards before they would ever be willing to take it over. And it would therefore be fairly easy to maintain and would be in good repair. So, yeah. Was that something?
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, if not, I'm going to couple the last two questions kind of together because I think the first one here, no, it would be my answer. But does the proposed amendment amount to spot zoning? I don't believe so. Are utilities available to serve in the proposed development? I don't know if either one of them are really an issue. What do you guys think? I mean,
Mr. Chairman, I had just addressed the question about the utilities, meaning the road, keeping the roads up, and the additional burden on the township. So maybe they're going to have to buy some special equipment to take care of Eagles Landing and this or something. You know. But that was my question with the utilities. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Mr. Stish.
As far as utilities go, obviously the roads are there, the power's there, but sewer, we haven't discussed much about that. There was information in our packet. Seems that this land will all be okay with, who knows about each of the plots, but before a building permit can be issued on any of them, they need to have proof that a type 1 sewer system can be installed. And therefore, if the lot does not have a type 1 sewer system available, it would not allow to be platted, or at least permitted for residents. So that is a utility, and it seems like that would be available.
Okay, anybody else on the board have anything else they'd like to ask or comment?
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, and spot zoning, definitely not. It
Yeah.
borders a residential area. That's already been platted for residents. Same use, same proposal.
Go ahead, Marv.
Mr. Chair, something else I wanted to reiterate what you stated, living by Camp Ripley, and when I worked for the local farmers, I was out in the field and during the middle of the night knifing beans, and when they were shooting and the windows vibrating, after a while, you just become condoned to it. It's amazing. Not that I'm going to agree with this here, but after a while, you just be condoned to these noises, and if they're aware of this before they build, it shouldn't be a problem. I'm just stating that.
Okay. So we're getting real close to coming to a vote here. Before we get to that and I ask for a motion, I just want to make a couple comments. First, I'd like to thank everybody that's here for their professionalism, both Monroe, Mr. Monroe, and also all the public. I think it's been a long meeting, but we got through it. I know there's a lot of things, but part of it is, irregardless of what happens here tonight, we either recommend or we recommend that they deny this. The commissioners have the final say, but it's our job to find as much of the evidence for yes or no, so we can recommend or not recommend something. And then it's good that all the commissioners are with us tonight. We have 4 of them here and 1 online, so they hear it firsthand, and then I think that's very important. So I know we went through a lot of things. I said some things back and forth that don't really mean how I'm going to vote yes or no. It was just to draw up some thoughts, either for us or for the commissioners or the public or whatever. So with that, I'd just like to thank everybody for all their professionalism tonight and getting through this meeting. So I guess if nobody else on the board has anything, I would obtain a motion to either. Oh yeah, roll call vote, that's right. I just asked you that. To read. So basically what we got to do is, I guess, anybody have anything else? Otherwise, okay, so then I'm going to call for a vote, okay?
I just want to say that I appreciate all of the input that you gave, Dave, and Clint, you did a good job of leading this thing, and everybody had some good thoughts here. So, and again, I appreciate the professionalism we're seeing here tonight, and this is part of democracy. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Amy.
Just want to remind you, so as you go through the roll call vote, a vote for yes is yes to rezone, no, not to rezone. Then depending on the outcome of that, as far as for majority, then the chairman will ask for a motion for, depending on how you vote, for the recommendation, which will go to the county board, and that'll be considered by the county board on October 19th. 2021. That will not be a second public hearing. It'll just be where the county board considers this request, the information heard tonight, and the recommendation of the planning commission.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're gonna do voting. So what we're voting for is to rezone a parcel from agriculture to residential for the purpose of future development. So you'd be voting yes if you're in favor, or no if you're not in favor, to rezone a parcel from agriculture to residential for the purpose of future development. So it'd be a yes or no. I'm gonna start with Marvin Treadle.
Yes.
Brent Lindgren.
Yes.
Dave Stish.
Yes.
Dave Brucher.
No.
Clint Catherine, myself is a no. So we have a majority, 3-2. So somebody want to make a motion to either?
I move, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I move that we recommend this rezone to the commissioners, county commissioners, for their consideration.
Was there a second?
Mr. Chair, I would second that.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. I'll start with myself as nay. Dave Brucher.
Nay.
Dave Stish.
Aye.
Brent.
Aye.
Marvin.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We'll recommend to the county commissioners that this request is granted. So when is the next county commissioners meeting? Maybe give me the dates and stuff on that.
Yep, so this request will go before the county board at their regular meeting on October 19th. That's here in the boardroom, and those meetings start at 9 a.m.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, we'll kind of let the room clear just a little bit, and we'll move on to our next agenda item in just a minute. The board need a quick break? Brucher, do you need a real quick break, or are you good?
Quick break would be nice.
Okay, go.
Thank you.
We'll do a 5-minute recess.
That's okay. We're all good. We're all good. It's democracy.